The latest on the Ole Miss and LSU quarterback situations and all the portal madness from the last 24 hours. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. You're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. The college football playoff is here. FanDuel is the best place to get into the action all playoff long. So visit FanDuel.com to get your college football playoff profit boost every game day. Hey, congrats to Indiana. Congrats to Miami. They will play for the national championship next week. No SEC team in the fold. But, hey, look, if you're an Alabama fan, you were upset by how Indiana rolled you. Indiana did the exact same thing to Oregon. Wiped the floor with them. So if Indiana does that to Miami, congrats. I think we'll just say Kurt Cignetti is now the new Nick Saban of college football if that happens. But I wanted to give the shout out to Indiana. Easy team to root for, right? Because SEC, we don't really have any ties to them. All right, let's jump into it. The latest news going on around college football. And we got to start with LSU and Ole Miss quarterback situation. Let's start with Ole Miss. DJ Lagway is going to reportedly take more visits before he makes his official commitment. Now, it's a little weird because earlier this week, it was reported that DJ Lagway had chosen Baylor. He is going to transfer to Baylor, but he might be reconsidering that choice. Of course, spent his original commitment and time in Gainesville the last 2 years. And an ESPN report mentioned an SEC rival could be interested in Lagway, and that is Ole Miss. And Pete Thamel said, one program that has been consistently expressing interest is Ole Miss. So Lagway reportedly had a positive visit to Baylor earlier this week, and we all thought that it was done, that he was going there. Well, a day after that report, it comes out that DJ Lagway will take more visits and will be visiting Ole Miss this weekend. So the former five-star recruit going to be visiting Ole Miss to check out that situation. Now, on Friday night, Lagway told On3 Sports that he is indeed committed to Baylor. He said, quote, "Everything has been hectic. I don't know where people are getting stuff in the beginning, but yes, I'm committed to Baylor." So again, this thing just feels weird because it's like, okay, you're committed to Baylor, but you're not going to Baylor. You're taking more visits. So I don't know. It's one of those weird things where it's like a recruit, like, I'm committed to the school, but until they get your letter of intent or whatever, like, I guess you can do whatever you want, keep taking visits. We know Lagway also visited Florida State, visited Baylor, was supposed to visit Virginia. And look, his dad was a running back at Baylor. So there's a lot of ties there. There was a basketball game the other night when he visited, and chants from the student section, "We want DJ, we want DJ." So we'll see what happens there. But to complicate the situation on this visit of DJ Lagway apparently considering Ole Miss, and maybe this is the heir apparent to Trinidad Chambliss, Deuce Knight is also expected to arrive in Oxford tonight for a visit. Of course, finished his true freshman year at Auburn, finished with 259 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, had 4 rushing scores as well. So it's just very interesting. Knight made his one start against Mercer, looked really good, but it's like, okay, so we found out a couple days ago that Trinidad Chambliss, his waivers denied, right? So they're going to appeal it. They're going to see what happens there. But it sounds like, Trinidad Chambliss, as of right now, sounds like not going to be back at Ole Miss. So Ole Miss has to replace him. We know Austin Simmons already chose Mizzou. So they're doing their due diligence, but it's it feels like it's one or the other, right? Either they're going to land DJ Lagway and he's going to be the guy, or they're going to land Deuce Knight. I can't envision a world where Deuce Knight says, "Let me go to Ole Miss and I'll sit behind DJ Lagway and wait and learn," right? Like, it feels like Deuce Knight wants to go somewhere and play. I mean, otherwise, why would he be leaving Auburn after Auburn brought in Byron Brown? So certainly we'll keep an eye on that. But we mentioned the Trinidad Chambliss thing. We did hear from Ole Miss Athletic Director Keith Carter. He released a statement when the NCAA said that their decision to deny the eligibility waiver for Trinidad Chambliss. He said Ole Miss is disappointed in the decision, plans to appeal. Tom Mars, the attorney, he released a statement on Friday saying they will file a lawsuit in the state of Mississippi regarding the ruling. So they're hoping that in the state of Mississippi that they can basically say, well, look, we had this contract saying that Chambliss would get X amount of money to play this year, and you're denying him that right by saying he's out of eligibility. So that whole thing is going to get very interesting moving forward on, again, does he get that waiver? Does he not? And for Pete Golding and company, they got to figure this thing out quick because, John David Baker, their new OC, turning the page from, the Lane Kiffin era and obviously, OC going to Charlie Weis going over to LSU. So they got to figure out their quarterback quick. A few other notes on Ole Miss here real quick. Cornerback Ricky Fletcher entered the portal Saturday morning. He started 3 games this season, had 11 tackles and 2 passes defended. He had come over from South Alabama originally. And then Ole Miss linebacker Jaden Yates, he entered the portal, had 55 tackles this season. And yesterday, true freshman wide receiver Winston Watkins, he entered the portal, and a lot of people thinking he could end up at LSU. So I guess keep an eye on Ricky Fletcher, Jaden Yates, and Winston Watkins, all potentially guys that could go to LSU. Now, how about LSU's quarterback situation? Well, they're still full on after Sam Levitt. Lane Kiffin reportedly flew to Knoxville on Friday night to meet with the Arizona State transfer one more time as he wrapped up his visit at Tennessee. He was scheduled to depart from Miami. I guess Lane got a meeting with him before he boarded that flight. And as of the latest news, Levitt did board that flight to Miami for his official visit there. Now, Miami's got a lot to sell, right? They're playing for a national championship and, would seem like a very attractive place. But, of course, LSU and Kiffin, they're looking for their quarterback. They have no scholarship quarterbacks on their roster after Garrett Nussmeier is out of eligibility. He went pro. Michael Van Buren hit the portal. He's off to USF. And Colin Hurley, their third quarterback, is in the portal as well. So I think Emil Picarella is the only quarterback on that roster, and he's a walk-on. So they're trying to land Levitt. There was also a report that in that meeting with Lane Kiffin that LSU upped their financial offer to Sam Levitt. So we will see if that is enough to sway him. But again, we know he met with Tennessee. Tennessee is also they are set to meet and host Missouri quarterback Bo Perbula. So Missouri's in the precarious situation that Joey Aguilar, they were hoping maybe he might get another year of eligibility. He's waiting for an appeal or a ruling on that. He has not gotten that yet. So they're kind of doing their due diligence. They do have, one of their top recruits from last year in George McIntyre, and then Faison Brandon, one of the top quarterback recruits in this class. But it seems like, he wants to go with Heupel wants to go with a little bit more experience. So that's why they did their due diligence, hosted Sam Levitt for a couple of days, and now they're going to host Bo Perbula and kind of see on that. I said to our Tennessee guys, or Eric Kane, I said to him the other day, I said, I just give Josh Heupel the benefit of the doubt when it comes to quarterbacks, right? And same thing goes for Lane Kiffin. I mean, look at his track record with quarterbacks. So I think whoever LSU lands, whoever Tennessee lands, I think they'll be in good shape. It just seems like LSU is getting into about to get into a bidding war for Sam Levitt, and if that includes, Miami and maybe Tennessee isn't willing to go that high because they feel like, okay, maybe we can get Bo Perbula for much cheaper. But if it gets into a bidding war between Miami and LSU may get desperate, right? I mean, Miami's at least got a quarterback on the roster, a young guy that they could go with. LSU's got nobody, so they need to go. And again, maybe LSU's looking at it as, well, Lane Kiffin's looking at, we just had a Trinidad Chambliss from Ferris State last year who's turned into a stud. So give us anybody. I know they were hosting a kid from Elon. So we'll see. Maybe they can just work some magic between Weis and Kiffin on somebody else. But obviously there's the hype and the excitement of signing a big-time player. And Sam Levitt is the number one player in the portal, not just quarterback, number one player. So we'll certainly continue to track that, see where that winds up. One more note here on LSU. They did the visit to Knoxville was also, they did a few other things. They were able to sign ex-Tennessee offensive lineman William Satterwhite. He will transfer to LSU, 6'3", 305 pounds, was a redshirt freshman this season, will have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. He was the backup center this year, played in 8 games. What's interesting about this is LSU still waiting on their center, Braylon Moore, who transferred in last offseason, to make a decision whether he's coming back to LSU next year or going to declare for the draft. Well, I guess LSU saying we're not going to sit around and wait for him to make this decision. We need to go get, another center. So we'll see if William Satterwhite ends up being that center. We'll see if Braylon Moore ends up coming back. But if anything, LSU just had another stud offensive lineman that can contribute there. A few other notes here. This is from 24/7 Sports as of Saturday morning. LSU has been working to try and get starting running back Caden Durham to withdraw from the transfer portal. So remember, they were supposed to be in on Kyron Lacey. Kyron Lacey announces he's coming back to Ole Miss. So Caden Durham entered the portal. They bring back Harlan Berry. They may end up bringing back Caden Durham. They are set to meet with him today. Matt Zenitz reports other high-end teams have been interested in him, but LSU's become a possibility. A few other things. Missouri transfer edge Damon Wilson is set to visit LSU today. And Tennessee, like we said, expected post Bo Perbula. We'll see what happens on that. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we'll get to some notes from South Carolina, Alabama, and more. Locked On SEC in just a second. Let's talk about something most men don't bring up, but absolutely should. Stress from work, money, life. It doesn't just switch off at night. And when it shows up at the worst possible time, Rue Get Ready is designed to help you take back control. Rue Get Ready is a next-generation prescription treatment created to support both the brain and the body so you can feel present, confident, and ready when the moment matters. Rue Get Ready combines 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 mint that dissolves under your tongue, so it absorbs fast. The science behind Rue Get Ready stands out. 3 clinically proven ingredients in 1 formula designed for both mental and physical readiness. You connect with a board-certified doctor online, and everything ships discreetly to your door. It's easy to understand why over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Most men are ready in about 15 minutes on average, so you can stay present, confident, and in control when the moment is right. If you've been thinking about taking the next step, now's the time. Head to rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. That's RUGIET.com/lockedoncollege to get 15% off your order for a limited time. Rugiet Ready. Feel present, feel confident, feel ready with Rugiet. Rugiet.com/lockedoncollege. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now you can take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club and get Locked On SEC with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonsec.supercast.com or check the link in our show notes to learn more. All right, let's dive back into it as we get you the latest on the transfer portal. South Carolina landing a wide receiver in the transfer portal with that was previously at an SEC school. How about Purdue transfer Nitro Tuggle, formerly played at Georgia? He committed to South Carolina. 6'1", 195 pounds, at 34 catches for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns this season at Purdue. His best showing was in their regular season finale against Indiana, 5 catches for 80 yards. And at Georgia, didn't play much, had just 3 catches for 34 yards, but was rated the number 3 prospect from the state of Indiana a couple of years ago, the number 24 wide receiver. And South Carolina looking for some help, some offensive weapons for Lenora Sellers coming back, and Nitro Tuggle will certainly help that. Also, South Carolina picking up a transfer from running back out of Ohio State. This is Sam Williams-Dixon coming out of Ohio State. Earlier in the week, they picked up an elite offensive line commit in Jacarius Park. So they add Sam Williams-Dixon to the backfield, a former 3-star recruit from the 2024 cycle, and appeared in 4 games for Ohio State as a true freshman, had 53 yards on 7 carries in 2024. But we will see what he does for the backfield help there at South Carolina. Now, they did also pick up ECU transfer alignment Emmanuel Poku. He's 6'6", 330 pounds, started 13 games this year, had over 1,000 snaps, still have 1 year of eligibility remaining. So South Carolina making some portal moves. I like it. Shane Beamer understands they got to add some help to that offensive side of the ball, particularly in the trenches. How about at Florida? They picked up an offensive lineman with some experience. The Gators making an addition, landing a commitment from former Stanford O-lineman Emeka Ugorji, 6'5", 300 pounds, started 10 games at Stanford as a true freshman this year. Was the number 82 overall tackle in the 2025 recruiting class. So John Summerall looking for some help in the trenches. How about over at Tennessee? Josh Heupel relying on Jim Knowles, his new defense coordinator, to go get some names he's familiar with. Penn State linebacker Amari Campbell announcing on Friday night he is committed to Tennessee. So that Penn State to Tennessee connection keeps happening there. They previously picked up 4-star D lineman Xavier Gilliam, transferring from Penn State to Knoxville and now they get linebacker Amari Campbell. The junior was a tackling machine at Penn State this year. He had over 100 tackles, 64 of them solo, 3 sacks, a pass defense, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. So Amari Campbell, get to know that name. He will be at Tennessee doing some damage. How about over at University of Texas? Coach Sark picking up a linebacker from Florida State, Justin Cryer, 3 seasons there in Tallahassee. And they're losing Anthony Hill Jr. and Trey Moore, both declaring for the NFL draft. Leona Lafau transferred over to Colorado. They were able to keep Ty Anthony Smith, and now they add Justin Cryer from Florida State to the mix. At 86 tackles, a sack, an interception in his 3-year run at Florida State. So some help there at linebacker for Texas. He appeared in 34 games during his time with Florida State. How about Clark Lee getting some help at wide receiver from Alabama? Wide receiver Cole Adams committing to Vanderbilt Friday evening. He was a late addition to the Tide's 2023 recruiting class. Saw his role increase this year, played in all 15 games as a return man and a wideout. Had 176 yards in the return game and 71 yards as a pass catcher. So new weapon there at wide receiver for the Vanderbilt Commodores. How about Florida might pick up an interesting piece from Auburn? Auburn wide receiver Eric Singleton. A lot of people thought that he was going to head off to the NFL draft. Made a little bit of news saying, no, I'm going to enter the transfer portal. And as soon as he entered the transfer portal, news came out that he might end up at Florida. He was a major acquisition for Auburn out of the portal last offseason. Had 58 catches for over 500 yards and 3 touchdowns this season. But that'll be a big-time pass-catching weapon there for the Gators. And, you got Dallas Wilson, who was the 5-star last year. So big-time get their potential if they can close on Eric Singleton coming to the Swamp. Some good news for Auburn, though, for head coach Alex Golesh, as they got an announcement that their starting running back, Jeremiah Cobb, is indeed going to return next year. Cobb has been with the Tigers the last 3 seasons. Was primarily a backup over his first couple of seasons, but burst onto the season this year, 969 yards, 5 touchdowns, and big-time get there on the Plains. With all the new USF players coming in, including the running back from USF, they are retaining Jeremiah Cobb. So good news there for the Auburn Tigers. How about some good news for Kalen DeBoer and company at Alabama? Announcement coming out Friday night that both quarterbacks, Austin Mack and Keelon Russell, will be back next year. Yeah, Alabama announcing on Friday night that Austin Mack agreed to a deal to return to the program. He was the backup for much of the season. Backed up Ty Simpson, came into the Rose Bowl when Ty Simpson left with injury. And then, of course, Keelon Russell, who was the big 5-star recruit a year ago. And Alabama fans super excited to see what he could do. Threw for 143 yards and 2 touchdowns. He signed a deal to return to the Tide next season. So with Friday's 2 announcements, the Alabama quarterback room, they know who their guys are competing for that job for next season. A few other notes here on Alabama. Mercer transfer safety Carmelo O'Neal announcing he is committed to Alabama, played in just 3 games last year, forced a fumble against Princeton, did have 3 tackles in Mercer's loss at Auburn. He'll have 2 years of eligibility remaining. Alabama DB Red Morgan announced he will return to Alabama next season. So Alabama re-signs their junior defensive back. And then all eyes on Cam Coleman. He arrived in Tuscaloosa yesterday for his visit with the Tide, and a lot of folks kind of making assumptions that, okay, if Alabama's got some of these wide receivers hitting the portal and leaving, hey, Cam Coleman, perfect fit here. You're an Alabama native. He visited Texas. He visited Texas Tech. He's made his trek around, but a lot of folks thinking there's some momentum building towards Cam Coleman switching Iron Bowl allegiances and maybe going from Auburn over to Alabama. So we'll see what happens there. All right, still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. The portal never stops. We got more portal news we'll get to coming up in just a second. And first, guys, the college football playoffs here at FanDuel. They are giving all customers even more ways to get in on the action every single game of the playoffs. And right now, every college football playoff game, FanDuel users get a profit boost waiting for them in the FanDuel app. And here's what you'll love about it. You get to use the profit boost on the bets you already feel good about. Ride with the favorite when you think a team controls the matchup. Take a shot on the underdog if you feel a big upset is coming, or build a parlay around the players in the moments you think decide the game. You apply the profit boost and you go after even bigger winnings. And when you win, FanDuel pays out instantly, which is perfect throughout playoff football. FanDuel, the best place to get into the action all playoff long. And, of course, they'll have that lineup there for you for Indiana versus Miami. Indiana already the heavy favorites, so if you think Miami can pull off the upset, go check it out at FanDuel. It is FanDuel.com. Visit FanDuel.com. Get your college football playoff profit boost on every game day in the FanDuel app. All right, guys, we dive back into it. Some other portal news we need to get you up on. How about ECU transfer defensive back Jamarly Riddle? He is committed to Georgia. He had 70 tackles and 4 tackles for a loss this season. Was talking with our guy Clint Chamblin from Locked On Bulldogs. He said he was watching film last night of Jamarly Riddle, looking to see how he's going to fit into that secondary there for the Georgia Bulldogs. How about Kentucky? They picked up South Alabama defensive lineman Dominic Wiseman, 6'2", 300-pound defensive lineman, had 23 tackles, 3 tackles for a loss, a sack, and a forced fumble last year. Also, Pitt transfer Jesse Anderson has signed with Kentucky. So, D lineman Dominic Wiseman, safety Jesse Anderson coming to Kentucky. Mississippi State picked up Oregon State tight end Riley Williams. He's a former top 200 recruit, originally signed with Miami a couple years ago. Also, USC, the Southern Cal transfer edge, Gus Cordova. He has signed with Mississippi State. So a couple additions there for Jeff Lebby. Florida State transfer DB Edwin Joseph has committed to Ole Miss. He had 37 tackles, 3 interceptions, 5 passes defense. He's considered one of the top DBs in the portal. So Edwin Joseph heading to Ole Miss. Big weapon there for Pete Golding and company. Alabama signing North Alabama punter Adam Watford. So adding a special teams player there. Boston College transfer tight end Ty Lockwood has signed with Arkansas. So Arkansas continues to add to their massive portal class so far. LSU picking up 2 wide receivers. They're still on the hunt for their quarterback, but they keep adding to that wide receiver room. Friday, they added McNeese State transfer wide receiver Josh Jackson and Illinois transfer wide receiver Malik Elzy. So both those guys going to play for Lane Kiffin and Charlie Weis. Former Alabama star wide receiver Isaiah Horton is set to visit Texas A&M. Keep an eye on that one because they're looking for that number 2 wide receiver opposite Mario Craver. We know Casey Concepcion's heading off to the NFL draft. So Marcel Reed maybe could get another very experienced wide receiver in Isaiah Horton, who had a nice year at Alabama. Also keep an eye on USF starting center Cole Best. He entered the portal. I was told Auburn, keep an eye on him because, well, every USF transfers going to Auburn. Also, one other thing to keep an eye on, Texas wide receiver Jamie French. He was a 5-star a year ago, big-time wide receiver. They all the sources out there, according to On3, that Michigan is the early favorite to land Jamie French. So we'll keep an eye on that. Some news over for Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou. Mizzou is set to hire ex-Clemson offensive coordinator Garrett Riley as an offensive assistant coach. That news shared by On3. He would take an assistant job rather than go be an OC somewhere else. Now, Mizzou has already hired Chip Lindsey from Michigan to replace Kirby Moore as their new OC. So 2 OCs for the price of 1. You get Chip Lindsey and Garrett Riley, 2 proven OCs in college football. But Garrett Riley will not be the OC. He will just be an offensive assistant. We'll see what role he will serve. He did serve as quarterback coach a couple stops in his coaching career. Now, Sean Gleason, he worked with quarterbacks on Mizzou staff. He is reportedly heading to the Big 12. Kansas State hiring Sean Gleason, Mizzou's quarterbacks coach. So probably the role that Garrett Riley will slide into there. Brings lots of experience. Garrett Riley was TCU's offensive coordinator when the Horned Frogs made that run to the national championship game in 2022. He won the Broyles Award for best assistant coach that year before moving on to Clemson. So, again, Mizzou with bringing in Austin Simmons at quarterback, and now they got 2 pretty good offensive minds outside of Eli Drinkwitz, who's a great offensive mind, but getting Chip Lindsey and Garrett Riley in there to work with him. One other Mizzou note, they are expected to hire Lavorne Chop Harbin, goes by Chop Harbin, defensive assistant coach, worked at Tennessee the past 5 seasons, including most recently as outside linebackers coach, was also a top recruiter for the Vols, was the lead recruiter on 3 four-star class of 2026 players currently committed to Tennessee. So Chop Harbin heading to Mizzou. Nice addition there for Eli Drinkwitz and company. All right, so a few other rumors here happening. I gave you most of the SEC stuff. A few other big names to keep an eye on. Nebraska quarterback Dylan Raiola. There is a lot of momentum building towards him ending up at Oregon. So we'll keep an eye on that. But it sounds like Dylan Raiola could be headed to Oregon. How about Penn State edge Chaz Coleman? We know he visited LSU. He's been making the rounds. South Carolina and Ohio State have emerged as the 2 top favorites for him. Gamecocks, big selling point to trying to give to him. Hey, wouldn't you like to play opposite Dylan Stewart? Happened with Kyle Kennard last year, and he won SEC Defensive Player of the Year. So keep an eye on that one. I think that's kind of it. Yeah, he mentioned the Elon quarterback Landon Clark visited Michigan, and James Madison wraps up a visit with LSU today. Don't think he'll start for LSU, but if they keep striking out on quarterbacks, he may end up being the starter for LSU. Former Alabama wide receiver Chaz Preston is expected to visit Indiana. And how about former Texas running back C.J. Baxter? Reports say he is the Indiana is the team to beat for him. So Indiana having all this great success. They're starting to catch the eye of top players everywhere. And look, they've been really good in the portal the last few years, bringing in some big time playmakers. So shout out to Indiana. They're making some waves and going to play for a national championship. It's crazy what's happened there, and they're going to be the heavy favorite. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On SEC so you get all the latest episodes. If you never miss an episode, the Everydayer Club is built for you. Get Locked On SEC ad-free, plus members-only Discord access and more. All you got to do is check out the link, lockedonsec.supercast.com. Hey, a reminder also to check us out if you live in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama. You can catch us on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network. Catch us weekdays at 11:30 a.m. Central on the Gulf Coast Sports and Entertainment Network, home of the New Orleans Pelicans and home of Locked On SEC. We'll talk to you guys on Monday right here on Locked On SEC.